Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, and welcome aboard the USS Nevada in its 1944 configuration. To give you the TLDR, it's an okayish battleship, I kind of like it, but 40-second reload for the guns still kills that kind of ship for me. But I still can make it work. Before I go into the details for this first impressions style video, I wanted to ask you if you would prefer me to make more in-depth ship reviews, like for example on the Newport News, or if you are okay with just those first impression 10-minute videos. Let me know in the comment section down below. It's a little bit of an exchange of quantity versus quality of videos, obviously. And you know, I make those polls and sometimes there are the same results, sometimes they differ a little bit. It differs from patch to patch. It just depends on what it actually is about. And in this case, the USS Nevada has also quite the interesting history. Feel free to read it up, and usually I'll cover this in my ship reviews, with including a section from Drakenifel. If you don't know Drakenifel, look him up right now. So, what's the USS Nevada? Well, it's basically its own class, and this is in its 1944 configuration. It sits at rank 5 between the USS Wyoming and the USS Arizona in the tech tree, and all three ships have the same battle rating. While I understand that the Nevada has the same battle rating than the Arizona, it basically has the more modern AA array. I don't understand what the Wyoming is doing there. I just don't. Anyway, the USS Nevada. Well, it has 10 14-inch/45 Mark 12 guns. They are a bit more modern than the 14-inch 45 Mark 8 guns on the USS Arizona, but they still have the 40-second reload, which kills this type of ship for me. But you still can make it work, it just takes time. It makes up for it by being really slow with 37 kilometers per hour. On the other hand, it has this beautiful all-or-nothing-armour scheme, where you have on the bulkheads 330 millimeters of rolled cemented armor. The main belt is 343 millimeters thick. The deck plating is 82 millimeters thick, and the barbettes are 330 millimeters thick. The turret faces very well angled with 454 millimeters. This ship is tough as old boots, especially if you angle it, you just don't detonate. If you give broadside, well, there is just sadly no turtleback that further protects you, so your ammo is quite vulnerable. If you give broadside to something with really high penetrating guns. Plunging fire when you're angled is not a problem. Hits on the belt when you're angled are not a problem, and so you can soak up a lot of damage. However, if you receive a lot of HE spam, your 5-inch 38 secondaries are not really well protected. You have a lot of 40mm and 20mm, so you lose a considerable amount of crew. But when it just comes down to the main battery firepower, you stay in the game for quite a while, and you don't have to repair. And if you avoid unnecessary repairs, well, you can fight on for quite a while. And that brings us to the guns. Now, the array is really interesting because you have 2 turrets in the front, super firing, and 2 turrets in the rear. And the super firing turrets are the twin turrets, yet they still have the 40-second reload that the triple turrets have. Let's talk about the ammunition, because you have basically only HE and AP. The HE comes in with 46 kilograms of TNT, and the AP has 637 millimeters of penetration and carries 15 kilogram heavy warheads. Let's first talk about the HE, because in the latter half of the video you see quite the video evidence that I got quite a lot of mixed results with HE. I don't know if this is down to this HE shell in particular, because it's not really weak, but it's certainly not the strongest. Think about the British 13.5-inch HE, that is roughly 88 kilograms of TNT on a 13.5-inch shell. And yet here we have roughly half of that. That gives you a good impression what's going on. And obviously it's not a ship that carries SAP. And that is also quite the big problem for the USS Arizona. HE seems to very often do very little damage. On the other hand, it seems to cause, especially on cruisers, long-term flooding. But again, the problem is that you don't have the rate of fire to really hit home hard with HE. You don't keep the flooding up because of 40-second reload. And then we come to the AP. And as you can see, versus all the Newport News and the new premium cruiser that I also will cover, the USS Des Moines, you just have no problem. You just walk right all over them. They just stand no chance, and you just have so thick armor that you can absorb their firepower easily. The big problem obviously are ships that have lots of nasty torpedoes. So far I didn't come across them, but I guess, no nice things will happen to me. And that brings us to, for example, here this Kronstadt. And I just can't kill him. He's bow in, I took out 2 of his turrets, and he just has all the time in the world to just repair and then get me into a duel. He damaged my turrets, and even though he shows perfect broadside, some of the shells just went right through his ship, did no damage, and that is obviously a big problem if you want to win the fight. And he in return, at that close quarters, even angling doesn't seem to help versus those wannabe super special magic Soviet fantasy guns. And again, if you show broadsides, you will die. Again, if you show broadside, you'll die. There are enough tough ships out there that will deal with you. And the AP also can deal, as you saw at the very start, with battleships if they show full broadside. At this very moment, the battleships are not the most desirable ones. The best US ship might still be the USS Alaska at top tier, and maybe you'll have the most fun with the premium destroyers or some of the light cruisers, and then obviously the Des Moines or the USS Newport News. They are really cool, but then it flips around and you get ships like the Wyoming or the North Dakota. The USS Nevada together with the USS Arizona are not bad, but you can have a lot of fun in other ships. For example, with the Germans, the SMS von der Tann, the Scharnhorst, the Westfalen and Helgoland, when you have equal tier battles. The Soviets obviously have then the Poltava, Kronstadt, Imperatrica Maria, Patriskaya Komuna. So they obviously hit incredibly hard. Then you have, for the British, those awesome ships like the Hood. Then the Colossus is also pretty good, but the Marlborough still might be the toughest British cookie. And for Japan, well, you have so many good ships: Hyuga, Fuso, Kongo, Haruna, and then also the cruisers are absolute battleship walnut crackers when they launch their torpedoes. Yes, you are better than the Italians, although I still have to play the RN Duilio, and I will make a video about this. And obviously the French Navy kind of has only arrived in premium status. At the end of the video, just a few tips how to play the ship. First of all, don't be the first to spawn. Just let your team spawn and let them take the brunt of the force. And then you spawn and be the sniper. You have, versus well selected targets, the necessary penetration, and you do take your time to aim very well. Even though the dispersion is wonky at times, it still gets the job done. And then you really have to carefully select the ammunition. I highly recommend that you go into a test drive and try out the damage output of the AG and the damage output of the AP. Give yourself a little bit of feeling for the accuracy, and then you see why the ship is not a total failure, but why that 40 seconds, and if you don't have a really good crew, even the 50-second reload, including then repair times and such, is such a bad thing with 10 guns. And why the lack of sap really matters. Yes, I showed you some highlights versus cruisers, but there was quite the luck also involved. And that's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields in the skies and on the waves of War Thunder.